Crank up the volume and get ready for real-world bird hunting by listening to the Wingmen Podcast by Eastmans. Now your host, Todd Helms.
This episode's brought to you by Federal Premium. Guys, I've been shooting federal shot shells for a really long time. You know, whenever I had to scratch up money from whatever chores I had to do and jobs I had to do when I was a kid, I always grabbed a box of Federal Premium. It worked for me back then, and it still works for me today. Everything from the TSS heavyweight black cloud loads to the traditional black cloud loads to the blue box speed shock and now the new heavy bismuth loads. Federal's got a load out there for your price point, your budget, and your level of performance that you're looking for. So, be like me, reach for Federal. That is my unashamed opinion.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Wingmen Podcast. My guest this week, returning again, is Brian Tucker, the man, the myth, the legend, down at High Mountain Seasonings in Riverton, Wyoming. Brian, big day for us Wyoming guys. Thanks for joining me on here.
Absolutely, man. It's like Christmas in June for all of us right now.
I'm hoping you drew some tags.
I did. I pulled a muzzleloader tag for antelope and a late season whitetail tag. How about you?
Oh, that's awesome. Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
No, I blanked, brother. We got second choice antelope tags. The wife and I did, and that is it.
Sure.
Some mixed results here around the office. Some folks did really, really well. Some folks blanked across the board. It's just kind of a strange year for draw results. Just to give a little context for you guys that are listening, you know, we live in Wyoming, and waterfowl and upland bird hunting is not the only thing that we do. When you live in Wyoming and you're a hunter, you're probably a big game hunter too. Right. And that includes us and the parent company of Wingmen, Eastmans Hunting Journals. Obviously, our bread and butter is big game. So today was the draw results for elk, antelope, and deer. And that's like you said, Brian, that's like Christmas in June every year. Right. Sometimes it's disappointing and sometimes you're riding high.
Exactly. It's pretty good feeling to wake up and then look at those results and see at least you pulled one. It's been a rough few years for antelope, or not just antelope, but animals here in general. So, yeah.
Yeah. The antelope and deer in a lot of parts of the state are just hurting. Our elk numbers are doing good. You know, obviously up here in the Cody area, we'd love to have more elk, you know, fewer grizzly bears and wolves and more elk, but it is what it is, and we do the best we can with it. Like I said, some folks were freaking out this morning, and the producer, our podcast, the video producer, Lindsay, drew across the board, man. She drew everything she put in for.
Hey,
so she's super stoked.
Didn't Luke draw like a sheep tag?
Yeah, so he drew a sheep tag, which his first time applying, no points, nothing. First time he ever applied, he drew a sheep tag. So he's stoked. Plus, he drew a bull elk tag for his sheep unit, and he drew an antelope tag. So, I mean, he's got a busy fall.
You guys need to take him to SHOT Show with you and just turn him loose in the casinos.
That's kind of what we were thinking. And I hope you bought a lottery ticket.
Oh, no, that's cool. No, good for him. Like I said, it's always an exciting time of the year for most people, a little disappointing for others, and now it's just time to prepare. And he said it's big game seasons are big in Wyoming, but so are waterfowl. Turkey's getting pretty big. It's a lot of fun to live here. So.
Yeah, you know, and that's the blessing about where we live is I still am going to have a general elk tag, a general deer tag. You know, there's still going to be a fall full of hunting, and then of course waterfowl season's open in October, late September. Our upland bird season's open in September, so there's lots of stuff to do. It's like any place else, you know. It is what you make it. And I'm not going to cry. Any day I wake up in Wyoming is a good day.
I was just going to say we're pretty blessed to live where we live, and so the opportunities that we have for over the counter, if you don't draw something, we can make it work. You can fill your fall pretty easily too. And like my year, it's the tags I drew are kind of almost perfect with the fall that I've got coming up. So yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, you have been a busy man since I talked to you last. We don't get to see each other as often as we'd like, for sure.
Right.
But, man, I've been seeing your mug all over social media. High Mountain has stepped up the game. You guys are making a pile of videos, product videos. I love it.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's one of those, it's like we've got, a lot of companies we work with, like you guys and stuff, that use the product, use it well. But there's a lot of stuff out there from other people who are just kind of the general public that can add misinformation, things like that, that this gives us a little more control in the narrative and like showing people the proper way to use the stuff, because we want them to have the best results in the end, right? And trying to talk about it step through step, how to do jerky or snack and sticks, which can be very intimidating to the first time user. I mean, if you can see someone like me on there using it, anybody can use it, right? I mean, I'm just gonna say
that was my first thought, dude. That was my first thought. I'm like, well, if Brian can do this,
right? So, but no, it's fun. We got a guy that works for us in our production department. He's actually from Turkmenistan, who's got a background in video, technology, editing, all that. Has done great work for some other companies that we've worked with, and we gave him a shot. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and just the shorts have been pretty cool. There's obviously long versions of everything available on our website and YouTube. Just, it's been fun. When I get paid to process, stuff at work, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I enjoy the heck out of it. So yeah.
Kid in a meat store, more like. No, that's super cool. Yeah, I love putting those videos that we do together. We try to do, one or two as often as we can. And it's a ton of fun to take, obviously I focus on the bird side of things on Wingmen a lot. But the cool thing about the High Mountain stuff is you guys have such a wide array of products that it's not just jerky. It's not just snack and sticks. We brought home a pile of snow geese from our hunt this spring, and we ground them. We did a coarse grind on them before we left. And so they were processed, and they're all vacuum sealed. It's all ground up, ready to go. It needs to be, ground again. Right. But my plan is to make bratwurst with them.
Oh yeah, 100%. We have people who use like regular Canadian geese on bratwurst, sticks, sausage. If you have any of those breasts left from the snow geese, definitely try fajitas. I've done that from hunts years ago. They are unreal. And the cool part about, like I said, we're just talking about the videos we've been producing. Anything that I've done with beef or wild game like that, you can do with birds too. It's just, we may not, that's be a good point for us coming up towards the end of the year. Maybe I need to go out and hunt and get some waterfowl just to produce the videos, and just because it's very universal. I don't remember if you were at that show or not years ago. I know like Brandon and Ike were when we did bacon, goose breast. Yes. And it was, we didn't tell anybody what it was because, everyone would be like, what in the world are you doing? But it's really good. It's just lean, but it's really good.
Right. Well, I think that's something that we should probably collaborate on. We don't live that far apart, couple of hours, and I think we should do another hunt together and then a cooking segment together. I know I could pick up some things from you for sure.
Well, it's vice versa. That's the thing. Don't think that these videos that I'm going to be the expert on everything. There's stuff that I've learned from people that I'm picking, that I'm, re-putting back out there, or I still watch videos from people that I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Why did I not think of that? Everyone has their own techniques. Some are better than others. And it's just because, like you said, I'm working at High Mountain doesn't mean that someone who doesn't is going to have an idea that's better than mine or not. And, that's the beautiful part of being an outdoorsman. We learn from each other.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. You said something the other day in one of your videos that I thought was really interesting. You were talking about using ground pork, and I know a lot of guys are going to use pork as a filler with their using birds. You might grind up some duck breast or goose breast to make, let's say, bratwurst, for example. And they think, oh, I'm just going to grab some ground pork and throw it in there. Walk us through why that's a bad idea.
So this has come from a lot of like customer service phone calls and stuff over the years that we've experienced, right? And so a lot of that has come from, my product's so salty, I don't want to eat it. And we're trying to figure out, why is the salt content so high, right? Because I make the product. I'm like, there's no way this is too salty.
Right.
And then so we got to thinking, and I was looking at packaging at the local grocery store. You see the stuff that's wrapped or like almost like that clear seal over the top of it, and it's got that nice bright pink color. Well, oxygen will cause things to darken in color a little bit, right? Well, the reason it's still that pretty pinkish, orangish color is the salt that's in it. There's a saline solution or salt solution that's been added. And usually it's like a 12% type solution is what they call it. And that's where the extra salt's coming from. Like, yeah, sure, it's really easy to grab a pre-ground pork from your local grocery store, but unknowingly people are adding extra salt to a kit that already, you can't really make a seasoning kit without sodium in it in general anyways. Right. And so you're adding extra salt, and so we're getting phone calls on like, why is my product so salty? So we really encourage people to grind it themselves to avoid that, or go buy a pork shoulder pork butt, ask your butcher to grind it on the spot, or really do some looking over the packaging of the product, because you can find stuff pre-ground that doesn't have it added to it, but you do need to pay attention because, again, it can really throw the flavor off. And then, I mean, I'm a salt guy. I love salty, but it can get really salty if you have that stuff on accident.
I made that mistake with the first batch of snack sticks I made because one of the things I like to do is use your breakfast sausage kits. And in our house, the Mountain Man seasoning is number one in our house. I like the Prairie Sage. That's my go-to. And I'm looking at that and I mix it like 70-30, and I use bacon ends and pieces in the breakfast sausage, and it's phenomenal for breakfast sausage. It's incredible. So it's literally just game meat, usually goose, because I always have a pile of geese left over at the end of the season. Usually goose and bacon ends and pieces, 70-30 mix, 70% goose, 30% bacon. Mix it in. Follow the directions on the box, and it's perfect every single time, and everybody just loves it, right? So I thought, well, I do that with breakfast sausage. I'll make my snack and sticks the same way with bacon. Big mistake. I ran the exact same thing that you were just talking about, where my salt content was so high we couldn't eat them. I mean, it was like, whoa. So the next time I just ground them with straight up pork back fat. You could find that in the freezer section in a lot of grocery stores, where you're just packages of pork fat, and that's all it was. And I used that in my snack and sticks instead. Completely different flavor profile, and they turned out incredible. Right.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. You said that bacon's already been cured, so there's already that salt content that's in it, where the cure's being added from the snack and sticks or the jerky that you're not using for the breakfast sausage. 100%, and it doesn't take much to throw the whole thing off. Right, and that's where people are like, oh, this is a great idea. Everyone loves bacon. Yeah, I'd have had the same mindset if I hadn't been getting, like, obviously answering customer service calls to figure that out. Just like with the pre-ground pork, sure, it's an easy step. I don't have to grind this. I can throw it in with my, game meat, my beef, whatever. And then it's like, why is my product so salty? And then we get the questions on it, and yeah, that's something we've come to know. I mean, I've been here over 10 years, and that's one of them that. First thing I ask, if people like, my product is too salty, why is it? That's my first question now, is where did you get your pork?
Right. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I saw that video last week, maybe over Father's Day weekend, and I was just like, that makes perfect sense, and I quit using ground pork a long time ago, not because of that, just because I like just straight pork fat better. I just want game meat with pork fat. That's all I wanted. Absolutely. And I'm really happy with the way that product turned out. But you hear a lot about stuff in the waterfowl world, and well, how do you like to cook them? How do you I don't like to eat them. I like to shoot them. They're a ton of fun to hunt, but I don't like to eat them, blah 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 blah. And High Mountain makes you guys the products that you guys make it easy to find a way that everybody in your household is going to enjoy it some way or another, whether it's breakfast sausage, snack and sticks. Like I said, we're going to do the bratwurst. Jerky is a big one. Oh, yeah. Goose jerky is so easy to do with that. But my question to you is, when it comes to jerky, are you a ground jerky guy, ground meat guy, or a whole muscle guy?
Depends, man. Depends on the mood I'm in. I I like both. I mean, I think the biggest factor for me is my time aspect. Do I just want to slice it, get it in the fridge and let it be? Or do I have time to get the grinder out, all that kind of stuff, and then take it that route? So not a great answer, because like I said, I go both ways on that. Just depends on the time frame that I have, to make it. And I do both. Like I said, the cool part is if you do the ground meat, all the ground meat jerky is, or else all the snack stick is ground meat jerky inside a casing for the most part. So
yes,
you can do both at the exact same time. If you want to make stick, and you have 10 pounds, make 5 pounds of ground jerky, 5 pounds of sticks. Maybe I would have said go that direction so I can make both, because that's the cool part about seasonings. They're so universal and stuff. But yeah, I mean, my biggest factor on that's going to be time. What I've got to do, because I can slice stuff up with my knife real quick, season it up, throw it in the fridge, take care of it tomorrow. Grinding it, I got to get whether it's the little grinder, the big grinder out, and then am I gonna do sticks? Am I gonna just do ground meat jerky? That kind of thing. And then, because then the next day you have to stuff your jerky gun if you're doing it that route, or your stuffer, or you got to get out your parchment paper, wax paper, put the meat between it, and roll it out with the rolling pin. So, again, time, ease of use is definitely the sliced meat, but ground meat makes an excellent product too, especially you can make it uniform. You can make a big sheet and you start punching out like cookie cutter shapes or anything like that for kids. It's pretty fun. So.
Yeah, with the kids in the house, the ground meat jerky has become the go-to for us. We grind so much stuff anyway that it's not hard to get the jerky gun out, load it up, and squirt it out. I found baking trays, like fine mesh. I bet they'd probably be cooling racks, to be honest. Exactly. And I just put it on those, and I can fit. What do I think? I can fit 4 of those. No, I have 8 of them. And when I put the smoking tray in my Traeger, I can fit 8 racks of jerky, that ground muscle meat jerky. It's a lot. I mean, I think it's 10 or 15 pounds of jerky at one shot on my Traeger. And then I just turn the smoke on, and 200 degrees or 220 degrees for a couple hours, and it's done. Yeah. It's super easy. The kids they eat it as fast as I make it,
Right. And those trays are genius.
Yeah, they're make it easy. It's like smoking for dummies, and I'm not throwing shade at anybody that has a Traeger, because I is one, I
is one.
But it's set it and forget it. Walk away, go mow the lawn, do other stuff, go, you don't have to sit there and mind a fire or tend to fire. And I like the flavor profile of the stuff that comes off the Traeger better than what I do in the oven. Because a lot of people make jerky in the oven, and I did for years, and I still do. But man, if I can use my Traeger, that's my go-to.
Oh, 100%. It's a great way to do it. And too, like I said, back to the point of why I'm saying that's such a good idea about those trays. You've got to have air movement around the meat. You can't just put them like on a cooking sheet, because then it's just going to burn. People call it that, or can I put it on tin foil, which I would say line the bottom of your cooker, whatever you're using, with tin foil maybe to catch drippings, but don't put it strictly on that, because you're going to burn the product, and then you're going to be unhappy with the results. So like what you're talking about, a cooling tray, we make jerky screens here. There's nylon mesh screens available out there that people put on for jerky, all kinds of stuff like that. It's pretty cool, the stuff that you can get into with it just to make your product that much better.
That's phenomenal. What it does for me, Brian, is it takes it, because I like to eat birds. I like geese. I really like eating ducks. My whole family likes to eat ducks. So we usually don't have a lot of duck left over even by the time like season's over. We've eaten most of them. I have a few in the freezer still, but not many. But goose piles up. You shoot 5 geese, you go on 3 hunts, and you're talking about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of meat per side. Yeah. It adds up fast. It adds up really fast. And the next thing you know, you got 50 pounds of goose breast in your freezer, and you've only been on a half a dozen hunts, and you're like, wow, what am I going to do with all of this? Because you can make fajitas. You can cube it and country fry it. I mean, you can do a million different things with goose breast, but having the ability to turn it into jerky or snack sticks or breakfast sausage that people are going to enjoy eating, and be like, when my kids say, hey, Dad, can I have some goose jerky in my lunch for school?
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's what I love about the high mountain stuff, about what you guys do, is you make it easy, and you can get your product everywhere. I mean, I was in Mitchell, South Dakota. We went to Iowa 2 weeks ago for a family visit, and stopped to stretch our legs at Cabela's in Mitchell. There's high mountain seasoning products in Cabela's in Mitchell, and everywhere I go, I see it.
Yeah. That's been a nice thing about like our product. You said the ease of use. I mean, the step-by-step instructions will make a first timer like a professional. I was the guy before I worked here that was just like, oh, I'll just throw liquid smoke, soy sauce, whatever, marinate, throw it in the oven. And it's like, man, this is awful. What am I doing wrong? Well, yeah. I mean, I finally figured out I need to read the instructions, follow the instructions. And it's like, oh, this is easy. And it turns out really good. And then, like you said, the cool part too with our product is so recognizable with the Hereford bull and the mule deer buck right on the front of the boxes of Jerky, especially in those little A-frame packaging. There's no packages like ours out there. I mean, and it's a higher quality product to where you're going to have good results if you follow the instructions.
Yeah, I've never had a batch where if I did get a batch that I wasn't happy with, it was my fault. I did something stupid. I missed a step. I put ground pork in the product and it was too salty, or I used bacon and where I shouldn't have. But if I follow those directions on those boxes, man, it's phenomenal. And that's just one side of what you guys do. You've got a whole line. If you guys are listening to this, you get a chance, visit highmountainjerky.com and go to the website, and it's almost overwhelming how much stuff you guys offer.
Yeah, so we have anywhere from our shaker bottles to our bulk products, somewhere pushing right around 200 products that we offer. There's some use, some seasonings that have been doubled up for different purposes, like again, because they're so universal that don't be afraid to try a salmon seasoning on a chicken breast or anything like that,
Right.
That's the fun part. It's like experiment. I use our venison rub or our rib rub. I'll use it on eggs or, in the morning or anything like that. It's pretty cool. And like you said, what we have, there is a lot to go through. We do have stuff broke down on our website just for recommendations of what type of meat or proteins you're eating or vegetables or anything like that. Just kind of a how-to help site. Don't be afraid to brine stuff. You're talking about eating goose breast or duck breast, which some people are kind of almost taboo. And yeah, they're fun to hunt, but I don't like to eat them. I don't know if you know Scott Layseth. He's the sporting chef. He, the guy that we've worked with for years, he suggests brine them. That brine replaces the blood in that breast, and it makes it a much more palatable product, whether you're going to grill it, whether you're going to, like fajita, anything like that. Give that a try too. Don't be afraid to experiment a little bit. Find what you like. We've got something that's going to cover pretty much any basis for what people are looking for.
Yeah, the brining is a big one, and you guys offer a wide assortment of those. And I can't overstate that. I learned a trick from John McGannon of Wild Eats, and he will take ground game meat, no matter what it is, and he'll put it in a colander over a bowl to thaw it, and then cover it with saran wrap so the air's not getting to it, too drying it out. But what it does is it drains that capillary blood that's in ground game meat, especially, and it's this viscous. It's that you've all seen it. Everybody's seen it. You open a package of ground game meat, and there's this oil, like thick, high viscosity blood. They could barely rinse it out. You know what I mean? It's just thick, and that's that capillary blood, and it's super high in iron. And that gives you, if you don't drain all that stuff, it'll give you an off taste no matter what you do.
Right.
And so I did that with a package of ground goose. I've done it with ground elk, ground deer, for a long time, ever since I saw that tip. But I did it with a package of goose, and I ended up with a big pool of that thick blood in the bowl. And I just didn't do anything else but made it into patties. I put some venison rub on the outside. No, I used the garlic pepper.
Okay.
I used that garlic pepper rub on the outside, and I grilled them just like you'd grill a regular burger. Dude, they were exceptional. And it was ground honker, a honker burger.
Yeah.
And it was great.
That's the thing. You're touching right there on, like, we get a lot of questions on what causes the wild game taste, right? Or the gamey taste that people are so afraid of. That right there is one of the big ones, getting some of that blood out, like that excess blood. But there's also a couple things to consider too, of like field prep, how the animal was handled, whether it's, antelope season in Wyoming in August, September, that's 95 degrees. You got to get those internal organs and stuff out right away. You let that thing bounce around in a truck for a couple hours after killing it 95 degrees, you're going to have a bad product, that kind of thing. I can't state this enough, the overcooking of a product that's going to cause that chalky, livery taste.
Yes.
That right there. There's
Game
so
birds,
many things.
Waterfowl especially, man.
Yes.
Guys are like, oh, it's gross, it's gross, it's gross. Well, show me how you're cooking it. And they come back and it's well done because they're afraid to eat, well, it's a bird. So it is a bird, but it's not poultry. Right. On geese and on wild game, on wild waterfowl, ducks and geese, your chances of like salmonella contamination on that is almost nil, right?
Right.
Now we have to pay attention in today's world to the avian flu stuff.
Sure.
So I've less and less when it comes to ducks and geese, and we've had bad avian flu the last 3 years here in our corner of the state, mostly in geese. And so if I have a bird that is even questionable, it gets pitched. If I get a bird that comes in and he can barely keep himself aloft, and it's like that bird's obviously sick.
Yep.
We don't eat it. Shoot it, but I don't eat it. And
right.
The last few years with the avian flu, one of the things that we've gone to doing is making more snack sticks, making more jerky, making more sausage, where I'm going to cook it and it's going to be above 155 degrees or 160 degrees when I'm done with the finished product.
Yep.
So all that stuff's going to be cooked out and killed anyway.
Right. No, those are smart. Exactly. Smart. Like you said, the bird flu kind of thing, that's definitely, I get it. It's not something anyone wants to mess around with. I have the same mental aspect of it with CWD with deer. It's one of those.
Sure.
I don't want to be the statistic. I've also heard of, my sister actually just sent me an article a couple months ago that I guess 2 guys in New York actually contracted CWD finally from eating deer
Really?
who were exposed to it. Yeah. So it's one of those, you've got to be cautious. You got to be careful, take care of yourself. But again, the overcooking of any sort of wild game is one thing that I cannot stress enough. People are so scared of the meat because it's wild. Well, one of the best, truest things I've ever seen, like on a Facebook meme or post, is wild game does not get recalled.
Right.
And
right.
That's, like you said, try it once. It might be a game changer for those people that are listening that are afraid of the medium rare 135 degree temperature, 140, whether it's a deer steak, goose breast, duck breast, anything like that, and especially brine it. Try it that way, and it might be a total game changer, because that's the thing, like where with some people I have a hard time hunt them, but they're not eating the wild. They're not eating the birds. So then why are you hunting them?
Right. Yeah. That always chaps me. It's like, dude, then if you're not going to eat it, don't shoot it.
Right.
You get in there and you go with guys. I've been on goose hunts with guys where it's like the end of the day, we've got a pile of geese and this person shot just as many as everybody else, but they don't want to take any.
Right.
It's like, oh, no, I don't want them. I don't want them. And I'm like, no, you're going to take them. But I think a better way to handle that is, I'll tell you what, you're going to take them. I'll help you clean them. And then I'll help you cook them.
Yeah.
Let's make some goose jerky. Let's make some goose sausage, or better yet, let's make some goose brats, or get the brine out, brine it, grill it like a ribeye, 130 degrees, 135 degrees, and you slice it thin, maybe with some condiments. And the next thing you know, you're like, wow, this is exceptional. Like, that's because it was prepared correctly.
Exactly.
You cannot cook a goose or a duck breast to the point where it's, well done, where there's no pink in the middle, and expect it to be good. It's going to be tough, and it's going to have an irony, livery taste that's off-putting. And so when you cook them to medium at most, medium rare, when I put duck breast out on the table, one of my favorite things to do with them is to take the venison rub that you guys have. get them all cleaned up nice, so they're good looking. Get all that, the little fine, like, I guess I call it silver skin on the outside.
Yeah.
Trim all that away so it's just pure meat. Season it up, rub it with olive oil, season it up, and throw it on a hot grill for a couple minutes aside till it's like 125. Pull it, rest it for 10 minutes. It comes up to a little over 130. And then you slice it super thin, and I sprinkle it with brown sugar. And dude, my kids will eat that like candy. I mean,
it sounds amazing.
A limit of ducks is gone in one sitting in my house. There's 5 of us, and we will easily polish off a limit of 5 mallards.
Sure.
They're just gone. And like, Daddy, is there more? Oh, I got to go hunting again.
Yeah, so, darn. Gotta go hunting again, right?
Shucks.
Yeah.
This episode of the Wingmen Podcast is brought to you by Leupold Optics. I've been running Leupold Optics for a long time on the big game side of things, and I love the performance and the quality of that brand. But when Leupold brought performance eyewear into the mix a couple of years ago, I thought I'd seen it all, but I was wrong. That performance eyewear from Leupold keeps my eyes protected. It helps me with my target acquisition with a crisp, clear sight picture. And guys, I got to be honest with you, I'm stoked to be partnered with a company like Leupold. So for all your optics needs, give Leupold a look.
No, that's a genius way to do it. Absolutely, too. It's like you said, it's one of those. We love to dispel the rumors of wild game is bad, because it's one of those things that it can be such an enjoyable thing to eat after you've harvested it. It's just like it all comes full circle, and don't get to the point where it's I'm gonna hunt it, but I don't think I'm gonna eat it because I don't like it because I've overcooked it. Like I said, my first experience ever with antelope was antelope steak that was cooked and well done. I hated antelope for years, absolutely hated it because I thought that's what antelope tasted like, and then I realized okay, it was just cooked wrong, and it's so many things like that people just don't think of, that they think they're doing for the safety aspect of it, or just don't realize they're doing, whether it's the field prep that's causing that meal to just not turn out for what they're expecting.
Yeah, no, exactly. And we have a saying around here that we can tell how good a hunter someone is by whether or not they like to eat antelope.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, dude, because you see it. You'll see guys out driving around and they'll have one on a hitch haul in 80-degree weather, and it's getting covered in dust and dirt. And it might not even be gutted. And then they expect it's going to be good. Well, you wouldn't do that with a package of ribeyes.
No.
You wouldn't go to the store and buy a family pack of ribeyes and throw them in the bed of your truck and drive around all day, then bounce around in the sunlight and the dirt, and then get them home and be like, man, these are the worst steaks I've ever had.
Right.
Well, no kidding. Why do you do that with antelope? Why do you do that with birds? I see guys pile up birds in the back of a truck. And it's like, if it's cold outside, that's fine. But take that bird home 5 hours later and open it, and it's still warm on the inside. I don't care how cold it is. They're extremely well insulated, especially geese.
Yep.
Extremely well insulated. So I like to lay my birds out, and hunts usually don't last that long if the shooting's good.
Right.
And if it's warm, I'm getting those birds cleaned, and I'm old school. I soak them. I put them in water. I think it helps pull some of that blood out.
Agreed.
If anything else, it helps firm that meat up a little bit, and then you can do whatever. A lot of guys will say, "Oh, you don't need to soak them. You don't need to soak them," and then they're probably right. I'm probably doing it wrong, but the end result is it's good, and everybody likes to eat it. So, and it gets the meat cooled down fast. But man, I think about that when I was a young man, and we'd go out on those September early goose seasons in Michigan, and it'd be 80, 90 degrees, and we're shooting piles of geese, and we just pile them up and, go home, and they're in a great big pile in the back of somebody's truck, and we'd get to cleaning them a couple hours later after the hunt, and then we all wondered why they tasted like garbage, because we didn't know how to cook them, first of all, but second of all, we didn't take care of them the right way either.
Right.
But this is something that I've learned. And it's European, and I want your take on it. I really like to hang my birds for waterfowl for 5-6 days. If it's cold, sometimes longer. And a lot of the best hunting we have here, it'll be my birds will freeze hanging outside. And I'll let them freezer age like that, frozen for weeks. And then I bring them in, put them in the heated garage or shop. And when as soon as I can work them, they're cleaned out. Man, that makes a tender, flavorful end result. That aging is exceptional.
I totally could see why that would work. I mean, it's like whether you're doing domestic, game like beef or even deer, elk, or antelope, I hang on my big game for the dry aging aspect of it. Let that blood kind of dry out, come out of it. You get that little bit of pellicle, sure, if you have it skinned or breast or pull the feathers off, I imagine. But yeah, I totally could see that being a thing. That why wouldn't you? I honestly, I've never even thought of doing it with waterfowl, but it makes a ton of sense because the type of meat texture, that darker meat, that darker blood that's coming out of a deer or antelope is similar to what's going to be coming out of a goose. And so the tenderness part of it is going to be, exceptional. And then you don't have that excess blood that's got that nasty taste that it can add to it as well. That's genius. I think that'd be a really good idea. I mean, I've got a walk-in cooler. I might have to try that.
Well, yeah, and if a guy has a walk-in cooler that he could hang birds in, if they're not frozen, I go for a week. I'll work week, 5 days. Yep. If I shoot them on a Saturday, I'll clean them the next Friday.
Sure.
Type of thing. If it's cool, if it's cold. Now, if my temps are variable, like if it's October, I'm cleaning those birds immediately.
You have to.
I'm not going to hang them.
Right.
Unless I have a walk-in cooler. But in November, December, January, February, man, a lot of times the hardest part's getting them to not freeze. Because they'll freeze solid within a day, and then your freezer aging meat, which I did that on accident with a cow elk I shot back when I was living in Thermopolis. I shot this brontosaurus of a cow elk, dude. I mean, I don't know how old she was, but she had like one tooth in her head, huge cow.
Yep.
And we trimmed the back straps up to have a meal fresh, and they were like chewing on a boot. I mean,
I believe it.
She was so old, so tough. And so I butchered her and I put her in the freezer, and just one thing kind of led to another. And I don't think I got another package out. We had the grind off of her. We ate the burger, was fine.
Sure.
We were eating on that. And I don't think I got another package of steaks out for like maybe a couple months. We were eating up the antelope we had and other things. And we had such a bad experience with that elk that I was like,
for sure. Yeah.
Totally different outcome the second time after it had sat in the freezer and freezer aged for a few months, and it just got better. I had it wrapped really well so it didn't freeze or burn.
Right.
And the longer it was in that freezer, the better it got, the more tender it got. I've read a little bit about that and heard about that over the years. So I thought, why not apply that to geese?
Yeah, absolutely.
And geese, especially ducks. I like to get my ducks cleaned. I'll hang them for a couple days and then I get them clean because everybody wants to eat them. Ducks don't last real long in my house. Geese last a little longer, and I'm usually breaking out the jerky gun and the original jerky kit. I've gone through almost all the jerky kits, dude, and I keep coming back to original.
That's what started the company. It's our number one selling product of everything we offer.
It is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Best jerky seasoning I've ever had. Yep. Hands down. And I've done the chili lime, and I've done the sweet and spicy, and I've done all different kinds. And the mesquite and the hunter. The hunter's good too.
That's my favorite.
But the original is just special. It's the perfect blend.
It's literally our company 33 years ago, and it is still our leading product to this day on everything we sell.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
And there was one thing that you said that I wanted to touch on a little bit. You talked about, getting, the feathers, especially like on a goose or duck, keeping that heat in, right? And I apply this to like antelope by saying those are just like big blankets holding the heat into that body. Heat is not your friend.
Right.
Meat,
right.
Cooking something, because those enzymes are breaking down. They're causing the bacteria that's giving some of that nasty taste too. And then that's where you're going to get things spoiling a lot faster, anything like that. Like, I can't stress enough with what you just said, whether it's waterfowl to big game, unless you're going to cape it and get the cape off real quick to save the hide, but you got to get that thing opened up, because literally it's just like us, the layers of fat that we have on our body, the skin, their hide, it's their coat in the wintertime. It's what's keeping them warm. So it's keeping the heat in. The heat needs to get out. And that's one thing when I talk about field prep, that is huge. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it applies to all of it. So
yeah, it's game in general. You know, you wouldn't slaughter a beef and let it hang with the hide on for, you know, all day or 2 days, or a hog,
exactly.
or chickens, you know, or whatever it is you're gonna slaughter. And the game that you take yourself is the exact same way. And like I said, hanging birds, that's an aging process that the conditions have to be right for, you know, and they've done that for centuries in Europe, centuries. Okay. And it's kind of a different way of doing it. But yeah, as a rule of thumb, especially in these early bird seasons, I'm getting those birds cleaned as soon as the hunt's over.
When you're hanging them to age, are you gutting them or just hanging them whole?
Just hang them whole.
Okay.
Just hang them whole. You could. So if you wanted to age a bird in warmer weather, you know, you think about September and October hunts, and the temperatures can be so variable. You know, you can go from below freezing temperatures at night to 60 or 70 degrees during the day in the sun. In the shade, your temperatures are going to be more stable, especially if you could get shade and airflow at the same time. Yep. You think about when you knock down an elk or a deer in the mountains and you got to hang it up because you can't get the whole thing out in one trip, right? You're going to hang it in the shade with the hide off, where there's moving air. You want to hang it up somewhere so the air can circulate around it, right? That cool air. And it's the same way with birds. If it's warm like that and I do want to hang a bird, then I'll draw them. I'll get the guts out of them. Just make that little slit at the bottom of the bottom of the body cavity there. And pull everything out, and do yourself a favor. Save your hearts and your livers. You could do gizzards. We're not required by law to eat gizzards off wild birds. And I usually don't, because I'm not a big gizzard fan, but I love hearts and livers. And ducks, not much there. But on geese, dude, you get 5 geese. That's a pile of, what do we call them? What do we used to call them when you're doing the turkey? Giblets. That's a pile of giblets, man.
Okay.
And the heart on a goose is this big. Sure. You know, it's that big. Yeah. And the liver is got nice. It's phenomenal.
Okay.
And you can make pate out of the liver. I don't. Sure. I just literally season them up with some kosher salt and some garlic pepper, and fry them in butter. And
I'll have to try that. Yeah.
Brian, you're missing out, man. It is phenomenal. And it's another step, you know, and most guys with geese, especially, most guys are just taking the breast meat and maybe the thighs, you know. Yep. But if you've got the time, just take a pair of shears after you get done getting your breast meat off, take a pair of shears and cut that breastbone open and peel it back. Just crunch, rip it open. Yep. That stuff's sitting right there.
It's not, and
you just pluck it out. And I'm telling you, everybody I've cooked it for, whether they were a liver fan or not, everybody I've cooked it for was just mount it down. They're like, this is exceptional.
I'm gonna have to try that. That sounds good. Yeah, because it just made me think. I mean, obviously, like we talked about going down rabbit holes, but just stuff on as a sportsman, stuff that people don't realize it's good to eat. You know, I mean, it just made me think of walleye cheeks. You know, that kind of thing. Like how many people?
I caught a limit of walleyes the other night, and I'm not going to tell you where, because it's kind of a secret spot. But and walleyes come deer in Wyoming, dude. We got lots of trout, but good walleye fishing in Wyoming, it's hit or miss. So we've got some good fishing, but it's hit or miss. But I did one. I've done walleye cheeks forever, right? And a lot of guys don't think of it, but the walleye cheek on a walleye, like you said, it's a completely different consistency from the body meat. It's more like crab.
Sure.
It has a very similar consistency to crab, and it's very similar in flavor. But I did one the other day that I hadn't done in a really long time, and I'd forgotten how good they were. And I did walleye wings.
Yeah, that's right. That's another one too. Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The 6 walleye wings and the cheeks disappeared before any of the meat did.
Oh, sure. Well, if you think about it too, they're muscles that aren't being used as much as the body, because like the walleye swimming, right, all the time. So that muscle is getting used constantly. They're not eating all the time like they are swimming. So it's not going to have that type of use. So it's not going to be, I'm not going to say walleye's tough by any means. Walleye's amazing. But it's one of those, it's not going to be used as much. So it's going to be much more tender because it's not a muscle that's frequently is used, right? And so just the fact that I see people clean the walleye, and I'm like, you going to take that? They're like, no, we're going to throw it away. I'm like, you can get a chunk on a good sized walleye. Yeah. Big old cheek meat off of that. Absolutely. And the wings, that's something I'm new to, but yeah.
Do the wings. Dude, they're easy. Yeah, they're easy. You literally, after you're done filleting it out, take your cheeks. I always take cheeks first, then I take my fillets.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last piece is it's that collar. It's right here at the bottom of the throat. Make a slit through the gill connection, underneath the gill plates. And then really from there, all you got to do, you can make another slit behind those pectoral fins. They've got the 2 pectoral fins, so they look like butterflies, right? And you could just take your thumb and your finger and you just rip it.
Pop it out, yeah.
You just pop it out. And I don't skin them because you're not eating that skin anyway. You're eating the meat that's on the underside, but there's a silver skin layer in there. So just take your thumb and strip that silver skin out. And you're not going to get all of it. But as long as you break it up, the cooking process breaks it down too.
Sure.
And dude, they are unbelievable. And I just bread them and fry them along with the rest of my fish and fry them up. The fins are like potato chips, and you could do this on not just walleye. You could do this on big trout. You can do it on salmon. You can do it on any fish that's not a panfish, because it's just nothing there on a panfish, right?
No.
But any bigger fish, northern pike, walleyes, catfish, the collars on a catfish, why not? You know, why not?
Keep that in mind. Like I said, you and I are talking, I'm headed to Keyhole this weekend, and that might be one of those, like, get into those bigger northerners where you decide to keep 1 or 2 just to try some of that stuff out. That'd be good to try. Absolutely.
I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with those collars, those wings. I haven't heard much about the fishing over there. I got a buddy that lives over there, and it's been pretty spotty this spring. It's pretty hit or miss. I went over, I took my youngest daughter over there to hunt turkeys.
Sure.
And she shot her first turkey, and then we spent the rest of the day on the boat with him, and we caught a couple of small walleyes and a couple of crappie, and that was it. But it's been really hit or miss. So, man, I hope you get into them, because that'd be really cool.
Which is, living in Wyoming my whole life, I've never actually fished Keyhole, so this is the first time for me. So it's, I got to get out more, but it's, I'm looking forward to it, hoping for something like that. Like you said, 'cause you hear all the good stories of, oh man, the crappie are on fire, walleye are on fire. You get into big 30+ inch northerns up there. It should be fun. Hopefully, it's better than sitting in the office.
No, exactly. You got to get out, and everybody's got their spots, and wherever you're listening to this to, you're like, whatever body of water you fish or block of timber you hunt or whatever it might be, you could take what we're talking about and apply it across the board to all different sorts of scenarios and situations and locations. And that's one of the things I love about talking to you is you're just such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to cooking game, that when I come away from a conversation with you, I've got stuff to go home and try. And I'm like, yep, going to go home and try that. Mental note. Goose fajitas. Haven't done those in a while. I'm going to try this brine. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's the thing. That's the fun part too. Again, it's just, that's sportsmen in general. How much do we learn from each other? Just having conversations, whether it's around a campfire, a podcast like this, staying in touch on social media, getting together for a quick meal when, we drive through each other's towns, anything like that you can learn. We're only trying to help each other, make each other better, because there's enough already of a negative persona with stuff out there towards sportsmen anyways. If we can help each other and make it a much more positive light, everybody needs to do it. 100%.
We're our own worst enemies, and a lot of the time, the infighting and the bickering. And I had Nick Munt on the podcast a couple weeks ago.
Good dude.
And he's super good dude, man. We had an awesome conversation. And he brought it up the best. We all represent different brands. We're coming at things from different angles.
Mhm.
Everybody might, not everybody hunts the same way or likes to hunt the same way or the same things. We live in
Right.
different areas,
Right.
and in the industry, he was talking about the industry specifically. We're all repping different brands.
Mhm.
I've got my partners are Cryptek, Federal, Loophole,
Mhm.
Shen Gear, Onyx, you guys, High Mountain. I think I'm probably forgetting somebody, but Savage, all phenomenal partners. They all make phenomenal products,
Mhm.
but they're not the only ones in the space at the same
Right.
time. You know what I
Right.
mean? I love being able to represent all those brands. I love
Mhm.
being able to use those products, but it's not because I'm a Cryptek guy or I shoot a Savage. I'm not going to look down my nose at somebody who's shooting a Winchester and wearing Kuiu.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Thank
It's
you.
like we're horrible at that as sportsmen. It's like, oh, that guy's wearing Sitka.
Yeah.
It's like, so what?
Who
So
cares?
what? I don't care if he's wearing hand-me-downs that he got at the secondhand store
Yeah.
and shooting grandpa's 870 with bargain ammunition. Is he out hunting? Then guess what? He's putting money towards the Pittman Robertson Fund, and his excise taxes are paying for conservation and furtherance of the sport, just like mine are.
Right. Yeah.
And we're gonna have conflicts. Not I don't get along with my family, perfectly. Nobody does.
No.
Conflict's a part of life, right? But to just look down your nose at somebody because they run a different brand than you do, they shoot a different gun, or they use different
Right.
decoys, or they wear different camo.
Right.
That's dumb. That's dumb.
Well,
And we need to do better. We're
I
our
agree.
own worst enemies, man.
Well, it's a simple fact of there may be a clothing brand that fits you better that doesn't fit me, and it could be simple as that. And just
Right.
because I don't know. You're 100% right. I'm going to end up going off a tangent with this, but it's like we're all at the end of the day sportsmen, and there's so much negativity surrounding what we do, and it's wrong that we don't need to fuel that fire. And we're all in it for the same reasons, and we should only support each other. Yeah, he said you wear Cryptek, next guy wears Kuiu or First Light or Mossy Oak Camo from Walmart. Who cares? Not everybody can afford the same stuff, but everybody's out there for the same goal. And we were all that 12-year-old kid at one time starting out. Do we want to give that kid, our kids, that negative aspect of, oh, he's a, whatever, because he's not wearing what we wear to use what we wear? But who knows? It works better for him. It doesn't work better for us. But again, that's all personal preference and opinion, and everyone's entitled to their own.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are products out there. I look at Federal Premium. Just the people, I'm super fortunate to work with the folks that I work with.
Mhm.
And there's products that all of those companies that I just mentioned make that are, in my opinion, the best you can get. 100%. I don't think you can find better ammunition than Federal Premium. I don't think there's a better camouflage pattern on the market than the stuff that Cryptek offers. Their stuff is, it's scientifically designed to master the art of concealment. I don't think there's anybody out there. Does that mean that when you show up on a hunt wearing, whatever you're wearing, Kuiu, for example, or First Light, I'm gonna be like, yeah, Brian, go change your clothes. I might if we're filming. I'm like, here, put this jacket. Here, put this jacket on.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But just to look down your nose at somebody for those things, and we have to remember that we are brothers and sisters of the hunting fraternity, of the hunting community.
Right.
And we have to have each other's backs. That comes with policing our own ranks at the same time.
Exactly.
If we're together and you're being a dumbass and violating game laws or doing stuff that's unethical or unsafe, I'm going to call you out on it. And I would hope you would do the same for me.
Yep. And that's not looking down your nose in that aspect. That's just being a good sportsman. And that's what
that's looking out for all of us.
Yep.
For all of us.
Well, that's part of my comment, where like someone does something stupid. There's 10 of us, nine of us are perfectly legal, ethical, follow the straight line. There's the one that does something stupid. They post something on social media, that's something super unethical. The story gets out. Well, they see you and me and they think we're the same.
Right.
It takes, and it's like, and that's not us. We think the same as the people who are anti-hunters about what that person just did, but we're just, it's sickening on how we can get really tied into stuff just because we're a hunter, even though we're doing things the right way, the ethical way, the legal way, and yeah.
No, I hear you, man. Yeah, it's the waterfowl industry seems to be particularly bad. The waterfowl hunters seem particularly bad at just dogging on each other, and I give you a lot of grief because I love to fly fish, and you're an emerging fly fisherman. What's
Right.
the term? Adult onset fly fisherman.
Yeah.
But it's good natured banter back and forth.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And man, I just see so much hate and judgment on social media, especially where somebody will post something up and they'll just get ridiculed in the comments. And I'm like, first of all, I bet you money you wouldn't say that to that person's face. True. Second of all, why are you being so judgmental? If the behavior is brazenly needs to be called on the carpet, okay, that's great. If it's something that's blatantly unethical, poaching, whatever it might be, doing dumb stuff with gun safety, or not taking care of your dog, okay, then maybe then that's called for. But just because somebody's got a different opinion or likes to do something a little differently than you do, nah, man, we need to be better. 100%.
No, I agree. I mean, there's obviously a big thing in Wyoming right now that we could touch on that we probably shouldn't, but that whole Daniel situation, like that right there, that as outdoorsmen, I mean, that's not us, No.
Like, and the unfortunate thing is that guy was immediately branded as a hunter by the media, by the mainstream media. And it's like, I will say this, I was very proud of our community, the hunting community, the sporting community as a whole, is everybody had the same voice when it came to that guy's actions with the wolf. If you don't know what we're talking about, there was an instance last winter, late winter, early spring in western Wyoming where a guy ran over a wolf with a snowmobile. Not illegal in the state of Wyoming. In the area he was in, wolves are considered a predator. Yep. They are kill on sight 365 days a year, 24/7. And there's no means of take outline. You can do it. Right. You can run over them with a car or snowmobile.
Like a coyote. Yep.
Yes, they are predator, and in those zones, we have zones where you have to have a tag, and there's a quota, and we're managing them in those areas, mostly around Yellowstone and Jackson. But outside of that, the wolves are not socially acceptable to expand. But this guy went a step further. He ran this wolf over, and it's like, okay, you're going to run it over and kill it. That's your thing. Great. I don't know. I probably wouldn't do that, but whatever. I'd probably just shoot it. Right.
Exactly. Same.
But where he really crossed the line and what really got people's attention was he didn't kill this wolf, and he dragged it into a bar and they kept it alive for an unspecified amount of time, but I'm guessing hours. Yep. And took a bunch of pictures. He taped its mouth shut, and it's crippled. It's in pain. It's dying. It's suffering. And after they had their fun with this wolf in this bar, they took it out back and shot it. And it's like that man probably set predator management back a decade or more. We were making really good strides, and I think we still are. And for the right reasons, you can't have thriving game populations and unmanaged predators at the same time. Agreed. Whether it's wolves, whether it's sharks for you guys that live down south and in the oceans. Yep. Talk to the guys, and they can't even run fishing tournaments anymore because the sharks eat everything. Right. They're trying to release tarpon, and the sharks are eating them. Whether it's birds of prey, which are federally protected, ravens. Brian, all the sage grouse work that we've done the last 3 years, we figured out that the number one cause of sage grouse mortality is ravens eating eggs out of the nest.
Not surprised.
They eat thousands and thousands of eggs. and we don't do anything about ravens as a general public. We're not allowed to harvest ravens. Now there's management plans for ravens, but it's done by private entities or government entities. But my point with that is anytime you set predators on a pedestal, they're going to outstrip their numbers. And then like, well, if the wolves eat all the deer, their numbers will balance out. That's not how it works. Because then when the wolves eat all the deer, the elk, the sheep, the antelope, whatever, then they start on rabbits, mice, stuff they eat a lot of anyway. But eventually they just start eating each other.
Yeah.
And they don't, this whole thing about balancing, natural balancing, ask Alaska how that's working for them. And they've reinstituted aerial gunning of wolves because they've got so many wolves in areas because you can't put blanket protections on something like that.
Right.
And expect there to be no consequences.
Right.
But what this guy did in Daniel, Wyoming was unacceptable. 100%. And I love how the sporting community was like, as a unified front, was like, this guy is not a hunter. He does not represent who we are.
Right.
And his actions are atrocious, unacceptable.
Yeah. Well,
unacceptable.
Turns out there was like 7 or 8 guys in the state with the same name that have like received death threats.
Yeah, I saw that
too. And I'm like, those poor guys, it's like, I don't think that's right either, but it's like that right there. I agree with you that as a hunting community, we have come together like, this is wrong. Like we will speak down on this. Like there's times where ethics and legality may not always be right, but this was neither, and
and to kind of advocate for the guy that did this at the same time, the backlash that he's received on a global level has been astounding. And the fact that he's getting death threats and he's probably pretty much in hiding, that's not acceptable either. That's not right either. You condemn the actions. You say this was wrong. And he paid the fine.
Right.
There was a fine associated because he did break a law by possessing a live wild animal. You can't do that. But I'm afraid of what's coming down the pipe as a fallout from this. When the other shoe drops on this whole thing, we're going to be set back decades when it comes to predator management.
Right. No, I agree.
It's going to be a bad deal, not just for the people. It's going to be a bad deal for the wildlife of Wyoming, the wolves included. The wolves are the ones that lose in the whole thing when you don't manage them.
Right. Well, I think that wolves do have a place in like an ecosystem for sure too, right? I mean, everything does. And I do think that however people want to view it, but yeah, they do need to have some sort of management policy that's set in place, especially when the wolves that were reintroduced weren't exactly the wolves that were here in the first place that were eliminated.
Right.
So we've created a whole different animal that we do kind of have to protect everything else as well from a problem that we've also created a little bit of.
Yep. Yeah, the whole point of it though is, we've got to do better, with the way we treat each other and the way we police our own ranks. And wow, we started talking about cooking and tags and I told you there was going to be some rabbit trails in this one for sure.
Oh, 100%. Like I said, I was a little hesitant to mention that whole Daniel situation.
Not me, man. That's not how I roll. Both feet.
Right. It's like, and again, we came on here to talk about bird or waterfowl, pheasants, turkey, stuff like that. But again, at the end of the day, we're all sportsmen, so we can go anywhere from fishing to big game to anywhere in between. And that's the fun part about having a conversation, like you said, just because, right there, you're wearing a Loophole hoodie. I've got an Under Armour hoodie on right now. We can sit there and talk about the whole thing, and who cares what we have on, right? I mean, granted, it's 40 degrees here this morning, which is insane for June, but yeah.
It rained. I took the family on a ruck after supper last night, and we just did a quick one because the weather was rolling in.
Yep.
I think it was 30 minutes. We threw some elevation into the mix, so it was a lot harder. It was a lot harder 30 minutes than it probably should have been, but we all got a good workout in, and it started at cold rain as soon as we got back to the truck, piled in. And the mountains, usually we have a 360-degree view of mountains here, and you couldn't see them yesterday afternoon. And woke up this morning and it was 40 degrees, same as you guys. And this clear as a bell, not a cloud in the sky, and the mountains are white again. we lost all our snow, pretty much all our snow, except for the real high country. But everything above 9,500 feet's white over here.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was saying that they said Yellowstone got like 8 inches of snow in like Beartooth Pass area. I know that's more Montana. They got like 15 inches of snow, and we're in June.
Yep.
I'll
take it. It's water, man.
It's
water. We'll take it. That
100%.
means habitat for our birds, and I will take it every day of the week.
Yep.
Cool. Well, dude, as always, Brian, I appreciate your time. You're a busy guy, and I appreciate you making the time to sit down with us and work out a phone conversation and a good podcast. Thank you for giving us the rundown on all the great stuff that you guys do at High Mountain, and thank you for being an awesome partner. I cherish this partnership. I truly do.
Anytime you want to do this, I'm in. And heck, I was thinking it might be worth just to run up there to you guys and just sit down at a table and just have to do it too. It'd be fun.
I think what I'd really like to try in the next year to get together and do a video or two.
Let's do it.
We need to do a hunt together again. It's been a while since we've done that. And then we need to sit down and make some product.
Let's do it.
And I think it's something that we could dovetail and work together on, put the two brands together and make it work even better than it already does. And yeah, if you guys are listening to this, if you've got some leftover birds in the freezer, which I know most of us do, go to the High Mountain website, highmountainjerky.com, right, Brian?
Yep. HIMTNjerky.com. We got frequently asked questions. If you lose your instructions, they're there. All of our products, any sort of tips. Heck, if you want to call and ask us a question, our number is 800-829-2285. Call. Heck, if you want to talk to any one of our customer service people, ask for me. We love talking to customers.
Yeah. You guys are an awesome brand, and it's so awesome that you're right here in Wyoming, not very far from us. I love it. So you guys check out everything that High Mountain does. And be creative when you're looking at that leftover goose breast in your freezer. There's a million things you can do with it, from making jerky and snack sticks to breakfast sausage and brats.
Yep.
There's a million things, and High Mountain's got you covered for that. So
waterfowl's very underrated. Don't be afraid to give it a try.
Absolutely. Well, dude, thank you again. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely, brother. It's good to talk to you, and tell everyone up there I say hi.
Will do.